Hello, I'm James,
Hi, I'm Jimmy,
and welcome to A Job Done Well.
the podcast that helps you improve your performance and enjoyment at work.
Good morning, how you doing?
Hi, James. I'm doing well. How are you? You can't say the weather's fabulous today because over
It's
my
bloody
shoulder
not.
is shit.
It's dreadful. No, I'm not fabulous at all. Anyway, what are we talking about today then?
Today, we are talking about flow state, which is the state that you achieve for peak performance, where any activity you're doing, the delivery, achievement, it becomes effortless. We've all been in the zone at some point. Well, today, we're going to help our listeners understand what flow state is, why it makes a difference to performance, and more importantly, how you access it more consistently.
Yeah, very good.
Not that
So
we're
before-
experts in peak
No,
performance, James.
no, not in any
In
way,
flow
shape or
state,
form.
we are two of the most easily distracted people ever.
But we have read about it. So what have you been up to this week?
So this week, James, I've actually got a recommendation for you and our listeners.
Okay.
I was doing a little bit of research for this episode, and I came across a guy called Ali Abdaal. He is
Hang on.
well, I made that up.
You were
James.
doing some research.
I did some research, which means I was surfing the internet.
Yeah, I was going to say, is he a TikTok guru?
He's actually a doctor turned productivity guru, and he is really good. I really like his stuff. He does some amazing stuff on how you can improve your personal productivity. So his YouTube is worth checking out. But he's a little bit more popular than us, James. He's got
Is he?
6.3 million followers.
Yeah, well, one at a time, Jimmy, one at a time.
Exactly. We'll overtake him some point in the next
In
millennium.
the next century, yeah.
And I'm also, as many people will understand, obsessed by the transfer market and looking at who Forest is going to buy for next season. But that's going to be a thorn in my side for the next couple of months. How about you?
Well, being British, I need
Yeah.
to talk about the weather.
Of course.
I went for a walk in the Peak District yesterday with one of my old mates. We organised it about 4 months ago. We thought, June, you can't go wrong in June. The Peak District, it will be lovely, sunny, sitting outside the pub having a pint. It absolutely hosed it down. I haven't been so wet in years.
No. Well, we've got less than 5 minutes into this podcast and we mentioned the weather twice. So that's tick that box. But
Very British.
to mention it a third time, my kids are both born at the end of June.
Yeah.
And every year when they were little, we used to have a birthday party for them. We used to want to have it in the garden, and every year it rained on their birthday parties. So, yeah, June is not a banker for a hot summer's day.
Right then. So, talk to me. 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
What is flow state? And why, on this slide of preparation that I'm talking about, have you got a brain bullet point?
Because flow state is all about the brain, James.
Yeah, you got it off ChatGPT, didn't you?
Don't give away our secrets.
Go on then.
Flow state was a term coined by an eminent Hungarian-American psychologist.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What was he called?
Well, that's a whole different ballgame, James. Do you know how many letters he has in his surname?
Yeah,
It's
go
like-
on.
It's like 25 letters in his surname. His name was Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
And you sure about that?
No, but that's what the internet told me his name was.
Okay. Well, we have got a clip. Here you go. Here's the clip. This is apparently how you pronounce his name.
We are looking at how to pronounce the name of this Hungarian-American psychologist. Mihaly. I know it's counterintuitive, but yeah, it's Hungarian. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
See, I wasn't that far off, surely.
Yeah, very good, if you believe everything you hear on the internet.
Yes. So flow state is a point where you're doing work where you really get in the zone. And what it is characterized by real focused concentration, merging of like action. You lose track of time flies. You really feel enjoyment. You get pleasure out of what you're doing, and it feels more effortless.
Yeah,
It might
okay.
happen in short bursts, in longer bursts. It varies, but it is that state of being really in the zone when your work's flowing, you're enjoying it, and the outputs, most importantly, are really high quality.
Do you know how let's just call him Mihaly. Do you know how he came about the understanding of this flow state?
No, but you're about to tell us.
I am. Apparently, he was really interested in what made people happy.
Right.
And so he ran an experiment. One of his experiments was going back a few years. This is within the days of the beeper. You know, you have your telephone beeper or bleeper, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, he bleeped people at random times of the day, and he got them to say how happy they were on a
You mean a
square.
pager?
Pager, that's the word.
That's
Just
the
that,
badger.
yeah. Bleeper, pager, whatever. Anyway, he paged people. I suppose it depends if you're American or not, doesn't it?
No. I think you'll find I don't think you'll find that in America they called it pager. In Britain we call it a bleeper. I just say it, putting it out there.
I'm telling you, posh people call them bleepers, mate. Anyway, he bleeped people at different random times of the day, and he just asked them to write down how happy they were on a scale of 0 to 10.
Yeah.
And write down what they were doing. And because he was really interested in finding out what made people happy. And what he discovered was that people, if they were sitting watching telly or surfing the internet, which of course they weren't doing then, but that's the modern day equivalent, they were probably about a 2 or a 3 out of 10. It didn't make them happy at all.
Yeah.
But he found out that people were most happy when they were engaged in something that was really challenging to them, like, I don't know, playing a game of tennis or rock climbing or writing or whatever it might be. But it was the whole thing about focus and having something which you could almost do. And it was really about what makes people happy.
And I think that's important. The reason for getting in flow state is partly your performance goes up because your outputs are really high quality. It's when you do your best work, but also it's the satisfaction that you get from that. So it is, ultimately to the core of this podcast, how do you improve performance and enjoyment of work? Flow state is one of those really critical things.
Yeah, and there are a couple of quotes which I think are quite good. So the one I like is Serena Williams, who has been known to say that when I'm in the zone, everything else disappears. It's just me and the task. It feels amazing.
And another one was Stephen Kotler, who wrote The Rise of Superman. Being completely absorbed by an activity you love to do, where time disappears, that's flow. That's where the best work happens.
Yes, there you go. So actually being productive and being happy, one and the same thing. It's quite an interesting point, I think.
And I think you'll find, to your quote, James, Serena Williams' quote, it is something that a lot of sports people try and achieve, because it is when you do your best work and when you're at your happiest. So, James, when do you get into flow state?
Well, interestingly, you have distracted me. I think, in flow state before I came on this call. So I was 2 or 3 minutes late for this call. And the reason was, bizarrely, I was
not just you're always late for everything.
No. And this was good reason. Yeah. I was taking it upon myself to write about bumblebees. Now, why I was writing about bumblebees is a bit of a moot point. But for me, I get in a flow state when I'm concentrated on an idea or trying to make a point. And I was sitting writing this thing, and I thought, I've got 20 minutes to go. And before I knew it, I was 2 or 3 minutes late because I just got so absorbed in trying to make this point that I lost track of time altogether. And there you go, flow state.
Yeah,
whether or not I was productive is a moot point. Maybe if you look, you'll see something about bumblebees shortly, and you'll be able to decide for yourself.
We'll be able to judge.
Yeah.
Well, for me, James, I think when we did that episode on strengths, one of the things we talked about was woo, which was winning others over. Thinking about it now, one of the points when I get in flow state is when I'm either developing a story to tell to people or I'm actually telling the story. So both the preparation, I can get really in the zone with the preparation and the ideas are flowing out of my head and I'm capturing them. And then when I deliver it to an audience, and it has to be on something that matters, something that's influencing people, motivating people, having a positive impact. But if the subject is that, and I'm either writing the story or delivering the story, that's when I most get in flow state.
Yeah, and that's quite interesting, right? Because I think I can be in a flow, or have found myself in a flow state when I've been presenting stuff before. But actually, it wasn't the presenting that was the thing. It was what I was presenting about. And so for me, it is the whole, what you're really good at, what you find really interesting. And if you're doing that, that's when you get into that stage.
But interesting enough, what I also thought about is when I'm delivering that presentation, I'll start off, and I'm not saying I'll start off badly, but what's critical for me is that I get some feedback from the audience. So if I don't know, say a joke and they laugh at it, or people start nodding, or sitting forward in their chairs, so I know that I've engaged the audience. That's the point I think I more likely enter flow state. It isn't just doing the presentation. It's when I'm doing the presentation, I think I'm actually having a positive impact here, and then it builds for me. So
yeah, it's about feedback.
Yeah, it's about getting something back on something that matters. But I think one of the things that I would also observe in thinking about flow state is I've not actually thought about it consciously enough during my career. I naturally fall into it in certain tasks at certain times, but that hasn't meant that I've actually worked out, this is my peak performance. How do I replicate that? How do I enable it? So really, in terms of an opportunity to improve, I think flow state is a really good one for me personally. As well as recording this podcast, we help individuals, teams, and entire organizations achieve outstanding results.
If you'd like to find out more about how we can help you, please get in touch. Email either jimmy@ajobdonewell.com or james@ajobdonewell.com.
So a couple of things to think about with flow state. It has to be a task that's reasonably challenging. So to your point about watching TV, you can't really get into flow state while you're watching TV. You might enjoy it, but you're not working. So there's a view that the challenge of the task that you're doing, and I know this is on average, James, but on average, it should be 4% higher than the top of your capability. So just beyond what you're capable of. So it's stretching enough.
All right. Yeah.
It's also, interesting enough, you can't go into flow state and live in it permanently. It's just not, the brain is not capable of doing that. Apparently, there is an absolute upper limit of 4 hours a day that you could get yourself into flow state and do this sort of, real deep work. The brain is not capable of doing so. So people shouldn't beat themselves up that they're not living in flow state permanently. This is about certain times, certain tasks that you can use this tool.
Well, that's sort of two things that come out of that for me. First of all, have you seen that chart? There's a very useful chart that people draw. I like a good graph, but this chart, it's got on one axis, it's got ability. So something you're good at, something you're bad at. Yeah. And then the other axis, it's got how challenging it is, comes back to your 4% thing. Yeah. So if it's something that you're very good at, but you don't find terribly challenging, then you just get bored.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's something you're not very good at and it's terribly challenging, then you just get anxious. So it really is finding that middle path between those two things. Yeah. Whereas you say it's just slightly more difficult to do.
It's just the 4%. You can believe it is just slightly too difficult, isn't it?
And then the other thing I read is actually it's all to do with brain processing power.
Right.
So apparently you can you've only got so much processing power in your head, which kind of makes sense. So when you are in that state of flow, it's when you are using all of that brain processing power. Yeah. And you literally haven't got enough bandwidth in your head for anything else. And so that's why, you can't be distracted, because if you're distracted, you're not using all your processing power on that one task. And then finally, of course, my point about why I was late for this call, when you're so focused on one thing, the time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really is about how much processing power have you got in your brain, and are you using it all on one thing? Which then actually isn't too surprising why you're highly productive when you're doing it, because you're just focused, really.
But if you want to see somebody really in flow state, we can put a link to this in the show notes. But Barack Obama's speech that he did, I think it was for the Democratic Convention when he was going for re-election. There's a speech that he does there where he tells a real story, and he's really in the zone there. It's an amazing speech. But why does
hang on. So I watched that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great speech. But why does that demonstrate in the flow zone? Why did you pick that one out?
Well, I think it demonstrates in the flow zone because you can see how effortless it is for him to get the audience in the palm of his hand, and how he holds them there, and the level of peak performance. I mean, that, in terms of speeches, that's one of the best features you'll find.
Okay.
I think it's a good example.
Right then. So why, I think I know the answer to this, but why does this matter in the workplace then?
So why does it really matter? Well, obviously, it boosts performance. This is when you're in peak performance. Actually, engagement with work, people find it much more rewarding to be doing work that they can get in flow state with. Yeah, and I think it improves, as our man Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, I think I got that right.
Yeah.
As he said, it improves happiness.
Right. There's a great quote as well from Mihaly.
From
Mihaly
Csikszentmihalyi. We just call him Mihaly.
We call him Mihaly, yeah. The best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. There you go. Yeah. So, well, to put it another way, get off your frigging phone. Yeah. So go on. There are a number of ways of getting into flow. Did you get this from your new guru then?
I got this from our old guru, which is the internet.
Okay.
Bear in mind my lack of accessing flow state. So I thought it was interesting to work out, how do you achieve flow state? Well, there's a few things that people say. One is setting clear goals for a task so that you know what you're trying to achieve and you can get clear success in a period of time. There's the stuff that we talked about matching skill.
Yeah, well, hang on a second then. Just talk about that, setting clear goals. But these are clear goals you've set for yourself, not clear goals you've set for others.
This is clear goals you set for yourself. And when you've got a big task that is, going to take you days, weeks, to your point, James, you can't get in flow state while I do this whole project. Break it down into smaller tasks. So get yourself a small task. Like you say, you can concentrate for 20 minutes, an hour, but break it down into those little chunks, get into flow state to deliver those chunks. And even if it is a task that you've been given, I think this is about you sitting down and saying, in this hour, in this session, this is what I am going to achieve. So you set yourself a goal.
No, and I think the point for me is actually this comes back to motivation.
Yeah.
But this really is if you want a team of people who are productive and they're really going for it, you want them in the flow state. But the way you get them to get into flow state is you get them to do the tasks that they want to do.
Yeah.
So my point being, it's all about, would you believe, purpose and creating some reason for them to be there and something they really want to get their teeth into, rather than just some random objective that you...
Well, intrinsic motivation is always going to outperform extrinsic motivation, isn't it? I think that the second part, as we talked about, is about having the right level of challenge. So you can't set yourself something that you do without thinking.
Yeah.
Key one today is really how do you eliminate distractions? And the number one distraction in all our lives, the phone.
Yeah.
And so, you need to find ways, put it in another room, get rid of it completely. But also another key tip is block time out.
Hang on, before you go into that,
yeah.
Just a random aside, your mobile phone, one of the things you can do with your mobile phone, Lawther's top tip, you can put it in black and white mode. And if you put your mobile phone in black and white mode, it's not nearly so attractive, so you don't spend so much time on it.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go.
I'll give that a try. The other thing is actually schedule the time, block the time out, saying I'm going to do either at certain points in your diary or, for example, the first couple of hours of each day, block out the time for doing, real deep work. And then create the environment. What do you need in the environment? Some people need to have their coffee ready. Some people need to have music on. Some people need to have the lighting a certain way. So create the environment that allows you to be focused. To your point, James, you have to tap into tasks that feel meaningful to you and work that aligns with your values and your skills.
There's an interesting thing about the environment. And is it chicken or egg? But if you find yourself picking up your phone, is that because you're bored?
Yes.
And therefore the task isn't sufficiently distracting? Or is that because your phone distracted you from the task? Yeah. And I think it's probably a bit chicken and egg, but maybe the challenge is to find yourself something that's really engaging.
Yeah. And maybe you haven't set the goal the right level. Maybe you're not going to achieve enough. Maybe the task itself isn't the right task, but it's good. It's a good challenge. So
sorry, I'm just going to go on another diversion. I like a good diversion.
James.
Yeah, you never noticed. You'll be able to get me back on track in a second. In the 1990s, Jeremy Age, I bought, do you remember those Sega Mega consoles? Do you remember those?
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, I bought a Sega Mega console because everyone had got one. And in my 20s, I played Sonic the Hedgehog. And I finished Sonic the Hedgehog. And I found myself for about, 3 weeks on the trot playing Sonic the freaking Hedgehog until 3 a.m. in the morning. And the point where is this relevant to this was the beauty of Sonic the Hedgehog was it got me into the zone. Because I was so focused on it, I didn't know the time was going, and it was something I wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
So there you go. I think there's something there in where you see flow, you see it in video game design, but also the other point was after I'd done that, I never bought another game because it's just life's too short to be playing freaking Sonic the Hedgehog at 3 a.m.
The next point is teach you a bit about choosing the type of work, which is really make sure that it is a meaningful task. That's the only way you're going to get challenged and energized and motivated to do something. And the final one, which I think is a really interesting point, is whilst we've said, here's some things to think about, you need to tailor them to yourself because you need to figure out what works best for you. It'll be different for me versus you. We'll need slightly different environments. We'll need different tasks. We'll be motivated in different ways. We might operate at different times of the day better. So I think getting a self-awareness on how do I personally access flow state is also key. And one thing that you can do when you've started to make this into a bit of a habit is keep a log of how long each day you actually can spend in flow state. It's your favorite point, James. What gets measured gets done. If you start to look at that time, it will naturally increase because you're actually understanding how little time we spend in flow state thanks to tasks, distractions, all the rest of it.
If you've enjoyed our podcast, please share it with someone you think would benefit from it.
Also, like and follow us wherever you get your podcast or on LinkedIn, TikTok or YouTube. And 5-star reviews are always welcome.
And equally, if you've got any feedback on how we can improve the podcast, subjects you'd like us to cover, or questions we can help you with, please do get in touch. Email jimmy@ajobdonewell.com or james@ajobdonewell.com. So this is all very interesting, right?
Yeah.
But if you are most productive when you are in a flow state and you've got a team of people, you want that team of people in their flow state as much as possible, don't you?
Yeah.
So what do you do as a manager then to help achieve that?
I would consider a few things. One is understanding those individuals and what their skill levels are, what really motivates them. How do you help them identify the work that will really challenge them and get them in flow state? How do you work with them to understand how they individually access it? I don't think you can mandate you're going into flow state now, James, but you can make sure that you understand. I know you like writing stuff, so it's tailoring your skills and your loves and your motivation to what the goals you're going to set yourself.
Well, but then, all right, so you can't mandate it, your team, you really can't, but you can create the conditions where they are most likely.
Yeah, and you can encourage them. You can make sure people understand that actually accessing flow state is good for performance, but also good for motivation and happiness. So you can make sure people understand it. You can create the environment that they can get themselves into flow state to enable it.
Yeah, all right. But sorry, I'm just labor the point a wee bit, but creating the environment is about minimizing distractions.
It could be, yes.
Yeah. It's also about getting people the opportunities to play to their strengths. So don't give them jobs that they're not good at, give them the things that they really are good at.
Yeah.
And then I suppose the third thing for me then will be about what the task is. So give them the opportunity to do work that matters.
Yeah. And make sure that they can schedule the time in, make sure that they can create the environment without distractions that works best for them.
So let's summarize that then. What have we got?
So in summary, thanks to Mihaly, we have an understanding of what flow state is and the importance that it has in terms of performance and enjoyment of work. And we talked about what it means to us when we enter flow state and, importantly, the different ways that you can access it.
Yeah. And also, I think, if you want to know more, there's loads of stuff on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Find yourself some videos, get yourself some books, you can read out about this, and it starts to make a lot of sense when you understand that.
It does, as we've discussed today, James. You and I access it occasionally, but we're not prolific users and certainly not experts in this space. So we'll put a couple of links in the show notes to some of the stuff that we've seen and used, and that will maybe help people. But yeah, it's definitely a subject that you have to explore a little bit for yourself, isn't it?
Good thing. Very interesting. Thank you very much.
All right. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed that episode. If you have any questions or comments on the subject, please get in touch. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers now.
As well as recording this podcast, we help individuals, teams, and entire organizations achieve outstanding results.
If you'd like to find out more about how we can help you, please get in touch. Email either jimmy@ajobdonewell.com or james@ajobdonewell.com.